Hi everyone, Peter here for Movement and Performance, and in this video we're going to talk about the importance of deloading and why it is essential when training optimally for athletic performance. So the first thing we need to understand is that when we do training, when we have a training session, we create stress on the body. And this is not a bad thing because stress is what actually allows us to adapt. So when we stress the body out, the body basically is going to supercompensate, assuming the stress is adequate. It's going to supercompensate, and we're going to adapt from there and become better. So the stress creates the adaptation, but also when we do training and we stress the body out and the systems, we also induce fatigue into the various systems of the body. So basically when we train, we provide stress to the body, and that stress allows us to create adaptations, but it also induces fatigue. So the thing to understand here is that adaptations are a slower process. So for our body to actually get better takes quite a long time, but the adaptations we create are also more permanent. So they actually take a lot longer to decay. Whereas with fatigue, when we induce that from training, it's a much faster thing to induce, but it's also a more temporary process. So we don't actually hold onto the fatigue for very long. We can decay it very quickly. So that being said, if we look at sort of practically what a training block would look like, if we have a look at this graph here in the top right corner, over time when we do our training that's going to stimulate adaptations, our adaptations slowly rise, so our fitness actually goes up, we get better, but that takes quite a long time, whereas our fatigue goes up a lot quicker. So if we continue to train like this without any deload or unloading week, our fatigue will simply get so high that it will actually blunt our performance, and it will actually potentially lead us to go into overreaching, and we will basically not actually get better, and we will not adapt anymore. So the solution to this is that over the training block, after we do our good hard training that's going to stimulate adaptations, it's also going to induce this high amount of fatigue. But then once we have a deload, so let's say at the end of the training block we have a deload, we can then basically drop the fatigue off, which is going to drop very quickly over a week. The fatigue will pretty much completely decay. And assuming we're still doing some light training, our adaptations or our fitness should basically maintain or potentially go down slightly, but overall we're a lot better off. So that's the importance of deloading, and in the next video we're going to have a look into the specifics of deloading. So how do we actually implement a proper deload for optimal performance? So the last thing I want to touch on is basically, can we avoid deloading? And the answer is simply no if you're after optimal adaptations for athletic performance. The reason for this is because if we don't actually provide a training stimulus or a stress strong enough to create adaptation, then we're simply not going to adapt. So we can do very mild training, but that's not going to allow an adaptation. Even though it's not going to induce much fatigue, it's not going to allow us to adapt. So essentially, we can't really actually adapt without implementing proper deloads over time. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you got something out of it, and be tuned to this channel for the next video on how to properly implement a deload. Thanks for watching, guys.